I'm Melissa and welcome to Oh My Word, Melly. In today's video, I am going to talk to you all about all the books I read in July. After coming out of a reading slump over, April, May, June, I think July was a really good reading month for me. I read 8 books, out of which 6 were novels, normal length novels, and 2 novellas. I was actually targeting 10 books, like one more novel and one more novella, but sadly I did not have the time to finish that, so those books move on to August. So without further ado, let's see what these books were and what I thought of these books and whether I recommend them or not to you. So starting off, the first book I read in July is The Night in Question by Liz Lawson and Kathleen Glasgow. This is the second book of the Agatha series. I'm hoping it's a series, guys, because more than book 1, I absolutely enjoyed reading The Night in Question. So I gave it a 4-star rating. So this is a young adult mystery thriller kind of book that it's like Nancy Drew meets how do I say, Veronica Mars with teen detectives, and they are like the series titled The Agathas. They are inspired by Agatha Christie novels, and they use inspiration they get from these Agatha Christie books which they love to read to solve mysteries in their small town. I can't remember where. God, I just got the name into my head and it just went off. I just absolutely couldn't put this down. Like book 1, I wasn't that much of a fan, but like that too, I couldn't put it down. I wanted to know who the murderer was. I wanted to know what was behind this murder, all that. Like I just couldn't, and I couldn't have enough that I really wanted to read book 2. And when it was released itself, I picked it up because I was that excited, and whoa, I just loved this book more than book 1. I just couldn't, I just devoured it in a day. I just kept on reading and reading and reading, and it was like really amazing. If y'all do like sleuthing, detective, mystery stuff, this is definitely a book for you. It's young adult, as the genre says it. It's not set with adult scenes and all, but even though I am I am way past my young adult age, I just love this book and I can't wait to see if there is another book as well. It was so adventurous. It there was no foreshadowing, right? Like there was nothing whatsoever. You did not know what to expect next or like who the murderer was. The plot twist, my gosh, I can't wait to see how they continue, because I can't say that, that would be a spoiler, but definitely this book ended with a cliffhanger, and there is going to be another book, is what my gut feel is like. It's time to bug these authors and see when we are going to get the third book, because I really need to know what happens next. I am that eager for this series. Like the way book 1 started, I never thought I'll be hooked to this series, but guys, now with book 2, it's done and dusted. I am hooked. So the next book of July is Axios, The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. Guys, I have wanted to read this book since it was released because the cover is just magical. It's so gorgeous, and I was so excited when this book was my office's book club pick for this round, and I was like, yes, finally going to read it. So I gave it a 4-star rating, and I absolutely loved it, right? Because I am someone who read the 6 Crimson Cranes, and I loved that, and this goes in along with that book. It's like somewhat similar. I'm not saying the story wise, but like it just gives you that feel that if you definitely love that, you will love this too, which I did. So this is a young adult fantasy romance book of a Asian literature mythology retelling. I can't recall what the myth was, but I just devoured the book. I love the characters, the world building, the story of itself, where they had sea gods or dragons where they had to do sacrifices, and it was all about love, family. Like she sacrificed herself by jumping into the sea and like becoming the sea god's bride or whatever, because she wanted to protect her town, her village, her family and friends, and like so many girls before that as well, that I absolutely loved. So the way the story flew through was just, I don't know, amazing. I actually loved it so much. And the scenes, the fight scenes, the way they fell in love, the sacrifices, all that was just so good. But you're maybe wondering, I'm saying that I loved it so much, but why did I give a 4 star? The reason is the pacing between the main characters, the way they fall in love, the way everything happens was great. But at the end, for some freaking reason, it was just so rushed to finish. And I'm like, wait a minute, what happened? Because it was that good. I love the story behind it. Like, if I try to tell you all more, again, it's going to be like a spoiler, which I don't want this mini review to be. I just loved it so much that I finished reading it in a day. I think it took me like just 5 hours. I had one Sunday free and voila, I finished it. And I couldn't even imagine that I finished the book. I didn't even feel like I was reading a huge book. I just didn't feel the pages turning. I was that immersed into the story and I just couldn't get enough of it. And then they go and rush the ending and I was like, no, that's how I reacted. So that's why the 4 star. But again, as this is a young adult book, it has a young adult plot line, which if you are not into young adult, then maybe steer clear. But I love young adult books. I have no complaints against them. I just couldn't put this down. This makes me want to read more Asian mythology retellings like the Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and so many other books like that, that I just can't have enough of this. These books are so perfectly written. I love the author's style of writing as well. Definitely check out The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axio, because that's a book I will recommend with all my heart. And like, if you are trying to get into reading fantasy, or if you are a teenager or young adult who wants to get into reading, these are books for you. So my next read is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I do not know how you pronounce that surname, but it's either Acevedo or Acevedo. So whatever it is, guys, this is one of the books that I planned to read this year, especially for the uppercase YA reading challenge. If y'all don't know what the challenge is about, y'all can click up here. And this book was falling into one of the plot or the tropes they had in the challenge, and I just can't believe I waited so long to read this book. Like, this book was released a few years ago, right? I think last year before that. I just can't believe I didn't pick it up. It's again a young adult contemporary realistic fiction kind of book with a little bit of romance. It gets very hyped as a romance book, but it had romance. I'm not saying no, but it revolved more about family, about commitment, about putting yourself first, as well as about cooking. So this book follows a teen mom who ends up getting a baby when she's a teenager and is trying to uh, like struggle through senior year while managing a baby, while working multiple jobs to take care of her baby and her grandmother, where her parents have left her. So many things that people go through were captured in this book. So many struggles, so many uh, topics that are very touchy that I see very rarely across books were covered in this. So this is not just your average romance book, but it's filled with so many kinds of love between family, love towards the daughter, love towards your grandmother, friends, your neighborhood, as well as budding romance between teenagers. And what I loved the most was this book had recipes given on them, but the way, if you go and ask your mom or your grandma, how do you make that, there'll be like a little bit of that and a little bit of this, and you'll be like, no, I want a recipe. Well, tough. Those recipes are just like that, a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and voila, a beautiful recipe that I could just picture it. It was written so beautifully, not only the recipes but even the scenes, the plot. I just could visualize it. It would have been so like amazing if they could capture it in a movie. Again, y'all know I feel like movies might ruin the book kind of thing, but I just absolutely loved it, and it had side characters who are on the spectrum, or like LGBTQ side characters, which gave certain depth as well, and BIPOC representation, because this mainly revolves around a black people of color neighborhood and different things that they go through, different perceptions that they have to deal with. And I love foodie or culinary romance books, and this just hit the spot. This is the second or third culinary romance book that I have read, so I was really happy to be reading this. And it had like where you travel to Spain, where this teen mom tries to put herself first as well, so that was amazing to watch, where she knew her father wanted her to be this, her grandmother wants her to be this, but what does she actually want? Discovering herself, what's good for her baby girl, and also falling in love with the right person was just impeccable in this book, that I absolutely loved it. And this book was just as beautiful as the color. I just can't, I really want to own this book to have it in my shelves, because it has such a beautiful cover. I don't know, I was just caught up by the cover, and now I'm like obsessed with the story as well. So check this out, highly recommended, With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. Next, it was Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Shirley. As the name says it, again, this is a culinary romance book, and also it had fake dating, which I absolutely love. This is an MM romance book, so a male-male romance book with LGBTQ or gay main characters, which I absolutely loved. Again, this is a young adult contemporary romance book as well, where it is set around this mooncake competition, and two boys, I think they were somewhat teens because they were in school. I remember that. God, I can't remember their ages. Anyway, of two different social circles, like an elite as well as this guy who is working in a restaurant down Chinatown with his aunt, and how they fall in love, how they start fake dating at this high elite boy's cousin's wedding, but that turns into romance. And oh wow, and how how one of the main characters are trying to get into this competition to win a grand prize so that he could live his mother's dream as well as help his aunt's restaurant to thrive. It just reminded me of House of Fang, you know, like if you have watched that reality show, I absolutely love it. I'll just leave a photo of it here. So it reminded me of that as well, with all the dumplings and all the Asian cuisine in it. So this too has an Asian plot, which, guys, for some reason I enjoy reading BIPOC books, right? Black, indigenous, people of color books. So this falls into the I category of BIPOC. I absolutely loved it, and it's set in New York City, Chinatown, having a dumpling restaurant. It was just charming, cute, such a palate cleanser. Like if you all read some heavy books and want to read something really cute, charming, where you just swoon, this is definitely a book for you. It was such a comfort read for me. This too, I read it in a day. I just couldn't put it down. I was that enjoying it that much. It was such a, you know, like a refresher kind of thing. I loved it. Had a little bit of star-crossed lovers, where the elite guy's father was trying to break them apart, and they would do anything to break them apart, but how a grand gesture brings them back together. I was just enjoying it. I love grand gestures, guys, and I'm like, yes, 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 yes. So again, I really, really love this book. So definitely, I have a theme going on. I guess I am into now culinary romances. Maybe I should do a video on culinary romance books so that y'all can check it out as well, because the baker in me, or the person who loves to eat, the foodie in me, just loves books that revolves around cuisine and culture and food as well. So do check out Fake Dates and Mooncakes by Shirley as well. The next book of July is none other than Kilt to Order by Susanna Nix, which is one of her latest releases. It just came out last July 25th and is the first book of her new series, the Kilt Trip series. Guys, y'all can watch out an extensive review of it by clicking up here, because I dedicated an entire week on a review of her book because I enjoyed it that much, as well as Kill to Order. I love other books by Susanna Nix as well, so do check out her books. This book is like a small town romance, friends to lovers, inexperienced or virgin female main character, roommates to lovers kind of thing, and a small town sports romance and all that. It was a beautiful book. I read this too in a day. I read a lot of books in a day this month. Yeah, like seriously, I read a lot of books like that. So check out this. No, I think this book I took a few days to read because I read it with work, but definitely a book you could read in a day and be done. Like it was that amazing. I was like hooked to it. So definitely check out my review again for that and like pick this up. The next book is by one of my favorite authors, my most favorite author, and that is Love Me Do by Lindsay Kelk. Guys, if you all have been following me since the start of BookTube or my channel or on Instagram, on Bookstagram, before I went into this entire BookTube, Bookstagram kind of vibe, if you all have been following me since then, you all know I absolutely adore Lindsay Kelk. I have read most of her books so far. The I Heart series itself, almost like all the 9 books I have read it, and then On a Night Like This, and then The Christmas Wish, and now her latest book. This too was released just last week, in last week of July, which I just couldn't wait to get my hands on. That I had to buy the ebook. I really couldn't. I really wanted to read it. And this is the first 5-star read of this month and the only 5-star read of this month. For some reason, I just couldn't give it any other rating. Like, it had nothing to do with that being my favorite author. This book wasn't anything really, I don't know, special, out of the norm. It was like any other romance book you would read, but something with it just made it feel special. Like, those books are very rare where it is not something unique, but it ends up being very special to you. So that is a book like that for me, and this too I read it in a day. It is an adult contemporary romance book, more like a chick lit kind of book as well, where the main character is from London or from Britain, and she goes on vacation to Los Angeles to her sister for 2 weeks, which this vacation turns out into a budding romance. And as always, like Lindsay Kelk's every other book, this too starts with a female main character with a broken heart, guys. I don't know why she does that, but all her books that I have read has some heartbreak, and that's where it leads to the entire story. And this main character's ex-boyfriend or ex-fiance was getting married that weekend, and she really needed to catch a break, and therefore she just takes a vacation time and goes to visit her sister. But sadly, her sister ends up having to go to work, and she ends up staying alone in Los Angeles in Hollywood Hills, where this book, as it revolves around LA and its glamour, it's not about the glamour itself like other books where it tries to highlight all the celebrities and all the glamour life. It's not. This is about neighbors, about community, about love, about family, friendships, and you know, discovering yourself, which I absolutely felt connected from the very beginning. And this book was in single POV of the main character, who is Phoebe. So this also had insta love, where she just sees the neighbor of her sister's condo, and he is just very hot, you say. Yeah, like very hot, and is also, I think, Spanish or Mexican, whatever it was, I can't remember, but like, yeah, very, very you fall for that guy, kinda. Then one of Phoebe's sisters, personal trainers, come to actually see the sister, but ends up figuring out that the sister is not there, and they become friends. Like Phoebe and this personal trainer becomes friends, and to see the personal trainer has a major crush on this so-called hot neighbor. So Phoebe ends up playing matchmaker Cupid, helping them write love letters, because Phoebe is a very literary nerd, loves to write and all that, and her profession is where she writes all the greeting cards, the poems, the verses you get in greeting cards. Like, I have not seen a plot like that before. So she ends up writing love letters, which kind of backfires. But what happens, the matchmaker, the Cupid playing matchmaker, ends up being the one who falls in love with the neighbor. That was a plot that I haven't thought of or like read before, which I absolutely loved as well. And this book had so much that I felt the romance was secondary. I'm not complaining. I would have liked to see more uh, chemistry, intimacy between Ren, who is this hot neighbor, and Phoebe, rather than just insta love, kind of falling in love. That insta love is something that is very iffy for me as well. But this book had just so much, where Phoebe meets another old neighbor and find out she's one of the starlets of LA, who had a very high reputation or a big reputation as an actress, a young actress. And it gave me so much of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid's vibe. It just resonated with me in this book, between Myrna, this particular Scarlett, as well as Phoebe, and their relationship, how they get together, how she talks about her past and all that. I just absolutely adored it as well. It made my heart so warm. It was just heartwarmingly amazing, this book, definitely. So I can't even explain more why I loved it so much, guys. This is definitely a great summer read, a great vacation read, a beach read, whatever you want to call it. Just pick it up and read it. If you all haven't read any of other Lindsay Kell books, I think you all should, but this book just had a connection with me, even greater than I Heart series or any other books by her. Like, I just hands down would recommend this as one of the most recommended books of the year from me, definitely. So those are the 6 novels I read in July, and the rest were 2 novellas. Actually, this is a series of 3 novellas, but I did not have the time to read the third one, but I finished the first and second. So this is the Love and Other Flight Delays collection by Denise Williams, or the Airport Novellas by her. And the first 2 books are the Love Connection as well as the Missed Connection. Third book is the Sweetest Connection. So I only managed to read the Love Connection and the Missed Connection, which, guys, was such a breezy read. I was having a very busy schedule in the last week of July, so reading novellas were just an amazing way to kill the little bit of time I had as well. This trilogy of novellas, or the collection of novellas, is an adult contemporary romance. Again, chick lit, and all these books are based in dual POV, so you get the best of both worlds. Everything is under 200 pages. So a little bit lengthier compared to other novellas that I have read, but still it falls under the category of novellas, and all 3 are set in an airport. So that is very unusual. I have read books where they meet in the airport and it goes beyond the airport, but this, most of the things happen in the airport as well. And the two books, at least the two books that I read, I'm still reading the third book, I just started it, so I can't speak of the third book, but the first two books had grand gestures in both books in totally different ways that I, again, am a sucker for grand gestures. And definitely fast. You can read it fast. I found book 1 a little bit slower compared to book 2, and at the same time I loved book 2 more than book 1. So, and there were LGBTQ side characters as well as all these novellas are interconnected. The first book, which is The Love Connection, I gave it a 3-star rating, and it was the two main characters were Ollie and Bennett. Ollie is an entrepreneur who has a pet grooming shop or showroom inside the airport for all your pet grooming needs while you are traveling, whereas Bennett is a risk analyst by day, however, is also a romance author by night, and his series are apparently best selling and everyone just absolutely devours his series. And how Ollie first met Bennett is while they are working at the pet grooming shop. She used to see this amazing, hands down gorgeous or handsome man walking throughout the airport on certain days, like on schedule, to see it was Bennett, who travels for work and has a very strict travel schedule as well. Therefore, she used to just see and oogle at him, not stalk him, but like oogling from far. And then one day, one of the pups they were grooming in the pet grooming shop just escapes and starts running away, pouring in suds and shampoo, and Ollie starts running to catch him, and the puppy becomes a cupid, and that's how Bennett and Ollie met. It was such a meet cute. I loved how that scene flew through as well. So it had strangers to lovers as well as dates and picnics in the airport while Bennett was having layovers. I just really liked those aspects of the book, but I was struggling to connect with it to see what kind of tropes uh, this book had, because I did not feel any connection or chemistry between the two main characters. Like, they categorized this book as fake dating, but that was just because Ollie thought that Ollie and Benny were fake dating, whereas Benny thought he's having a chance with her. Anyway, they end up together, which made no sense, whatever. Maybe that's why I did not like book 1. It was just all over the place for me. I did not enjoy it at all. Like, Ollie thought she was just being Benny's muse for his next book, whereas Benny thought by pretense of making her his muse that he would get a chance with her, which he does, but I just did not like this book. So I don't know if I'll recommend the first novella to you, but it's up to you. I know I have seen reviews where people absolutely enjoyed this more than the others. So up to you. Do check it out if you all want, because the second novella was amazing. So the second novella is The Missed Connection, and I gave this a 4-star rating because, like I said, I love this book more than book 1. I felt a connection with the characters. That was the main thing. I loved how this started off at a bar in the airport where there was flight delays and it was New Year's Eve, and like this girl Gia, who is Bennett from book 1, his best friend, and she is someone who falls fast in love, and like she really I don't know, wanted to spend New Year's Eve with other plans, but she ends up just making out with a guy she met at the airport bar, and it's more like a one night, not stand, but like a one night make out stand session kind of thing, and then they don't meet after that for a very long time. And this is more of a STEM representation as well, because she is a professor in one of the STEM areas, as well as this other guy who she met at the airport turns out to be her academic rival, who always discredits her work or like puts her work down and has a lot of criticism against her work, but where they end up having to work together, travel on office or work trips, and that angst, that rivalry turns into a budding romance. And like it had a Grumpy Sunshine vibe, a slow burn, but both of these books are closed door romance as well. And like I said, this Jia is a bisexual heroine, or she's also on the spectrum, and also a plus size female main character. So I really like that. I like books with any kind of representation, be it people of color, be it indigenous characters, other countries, diversity in on the spectrum, anything out of the ordinary I like. So I had a lot in this second novella that I really, really enjoy. I can't wait to read the third novella, which is The Sweetest Connection. I just started it and so far I do enjoy it, but we'll see. By far, the second novella is still my most favorite out of the 3 novellas. So those were the 8 books I read in July. I absolutely enjoyed my month of July. I wish I read more. I had like more books planned to read this month, but however my schedule just limited me to only reading these 8 books, and I am like really eager to read the books I have planned in August as well. So if you all did enjoy my recommendations and think these books are down your alley or books that you all would definitely like to read, do pick it up, guys. Like seriously, I wouldn't tell you all to pick up a book if I did not enjoy it and if I didn't think you all will enjoy it or not. So just definitely pick these books up. If you all did enjoy it as much as I hope you all did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up as well as share this video with friends and family. Also, if you want to see more of me, don't forget to subscribe to my channel as well as click on this little bell icon so that you all get notified every time I post a new video. So with the promises of seeing y'all next week with another fun and bookish video, here is me saying bye from Oh My